Hello there. Before the video starts, it's come to my attention that whilst editing this video, we've reached 500 subscribers, which is a magnificent feat unto itself. Not many group channels do get to the number of 500, and I just want to thank you all for subscribing and keeping up with the content and liking and commenting and basically interacting with us. We thank you so very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of what we have to show you and that. So, RTD Month's on and everybody's got something ready. I mean, don't you worry, I do have something in mind for the closing credits. I mean, the closing video, but I kind of wanted to talk about something that I hardly think anybody's actually talked about, which is the two animated projects that were created and transmitted during David Tennant's era. But anyways, without further ado, let's press the button to get this party started. So, Doctor Who came back in 2005 for the family audience that it was looking for. Kids and adults could watch the show, and the show could now entertain two generations of viewers. But there was an opportunity with the show. In 2005, there was only Doctor Who for the older and younger generation of fans, but by 2006, this had to be extrapolated for both totally Doctor Who for the kids and Torture for the adults, and in the case of the BBC, this had worked out in their favour for the success of both shows. So whilst Torture got a Series 2 greenlight with a new direction, Totally had a weird and new idea to bring itself in for the new series. An animated story that would spread around the show during its 13-week broadcast. This was producer Gillian Seaborn's idea, as she pitched to James Goss, an animation producer who'd run the Doctor Who website and produced the previous animated story, Scream the Shower Cut, which is underrated by the way. James had previously tried to pitch this concept to the BBC twice before in 2004 and 2005, but had to cancel the ambitions when it came to the fact that they wouldn't work due to the events of the Series 1 and 2 finales, and the lack of time to produce the animations in time to tie into the series. However, with the help of Steve Marr and John Doyle, who'd left the previous Doctor Who animated company, Cosgrove Hall, to produce Firestep, who produced the first of many, and I mean many, animated classic reconstructions of The Invasion. Gillian had a chance as she pitched to Russell T Davies with his allowance, who agreed as Alan Barnes, a former editor on Doctor Who magazine and a comic strip writer, to pen the animated story with Gary Russell, producer of Big Finish, from 1998 to 2006 as a script editor. Broadcast on Saturday, June 30th, 2007 at 10 a.m. came The Infinite Quest in all its glory. The plot of this story is basically that the Doctor and Martha have to find the legendary lost starship, the Infinite, before the evil Balthazar, Scourge of the Galaxy, gets it. So in general, it's kind of like a condensed version of the Key to Time season, but the episodes go by very fast. Also, they're only looking for 4 segments of a map that leads to the Infinite compared to the 6 that were part of the Key to Time. Okay, first to start off with, I like the fact that we're dealing with another adventure of the Doctor and Martha here. It does very much seem like we're having another adventure here that would have helped along with the character progression with the characters in the second half of the series. David and Freema themselves help the animation with their performances, as with the fact that it's animation, they get to have more range within their performances compared to those situated in the TV episodes. Though sometimes I will bring certain moments later on, sometimes they do go a little overboard with some of the performances. Anthony Head, oh, what a delightful casting idea. Of course, people who know me well know that I love his performance as Giles from Buffy, and of course Mr. Finch in Screw Reunion, so it was well worth it to get him back to make him be the villain of the piece. Balthazar just is that extra menacing as he controls the screen when you hear his voice, which isn't much compared to how he is basically the main villain of the piece. The writing is very stellar. I have to commend Alan Barnes for stepping up to the plate to write this adventure. Already he feels like one of the Series 3 writers, yet he wasn't. He adds so much to the already discussed progression to the Doctor and Martha relationship, whilst adding a lot of humorous and well thought out moments. It was a good choice on Gary Russell's part to choose him for this story. After the 5 segments of the story, the start of the journey, Buchan, Maya, Voloknok, and the Infinite, Buchan and the Infinite segments would probably be the best of the story, as they have the most watchable parts. Buchan has this Treasure Planet style to it, with its futuristic setting and its bony, yes, literally, crew that are on the ship. Swab is also a delightfully yet slimy character who Tom Farley excellently plays, as he able to turn on a dime from his introduction to his character's demise. The Infinite has an eerie discovery setting of a broken ship that not many people know of, and all throughout the story there's overarching mentions of the horror it beholds and the revelations that it keeps to itself, including a nice little hint at something we don't know about. Also, the fact that Balthazar gets his comeuppance at the end, for, well, following his character's motivations, is rather fitting once it happens. The music in the story uses a lot of the unreleased music that was spotted around Series 2 and Series 3, giving the tracks a lot more of an edge to the scenes included with the tracks that were used. This could be seen as a negative due to the story just reusing music, but even then, some of my favourite episodes of the era like to reuse a lot of tracks that were already being used at the time, but given a different spin, so I see this more as a positive because it's exciting when we get to hear them again. The animation is honestly great. The character animation has that cool and graphic notebook style of it that works well with the characters that have been translated from the screen to the animated episode. It also allows for the not originally created for television characters to also belong in the same universe as the others. Also, the 3D animation itself gives us a lot of good camera work, especially in the transition scenes between each planet and some other shots, mostly in the Infinite segments, that really stand out to me. The Dr. Vile bit is probably the worst moment of the story, as I feel like it's been a bit too pandering to the younger audience, and a bigger problem of it isn't that it's not just a little part in the story, like a little joke, and then maybe they'll move on. It's a big part of the story in a future segment. My least favourite part of the story overall is the Mantis Queen versus the human story, as it feels very rushed and squashed between the other stories that it wants to tell alongside the one it's focusing on. The Mantis Queen also gets on my nerves. I don't know what it might be, perhaps the modulation on the voice, or maybe the performance, but I think the Queen was played a little bit too silly and absurd, and really a calmer and more questioned performance could have sold the Queen a lot more. The fact that Balthazar comes out of nowhere in episode 10 does seem a bit weird, but not in a good way. I can see what they were trying to do with Balthazar, but the problem is that last time we saw him was in episode 2, when perhaps we could have maybe seen a shadow of him or something to make sure he was still in the story. Overall, the story is a great adventure in the style of a condensed version of the Key to Time saga, which is a great plot and a great idea to bring the Doctor himself. I only wish this story and its plot would have been the basis for one of the later seasons of the show, such as Series 6 or Series 9. The Doctor and Martha work great, especially with Martha, who gets a lot more character development despite the fact you don't have to count the episode towards it in the long run. So it becomes a nice bonus for fans of Martha Jones like myself. It also gives a couple of little hints towards further things for the 10th Doctor himself, so both characters get a little something added to them, even though you could skip the story altogether and not miss anything. The villain Balthazar is a fun and entertaining villain who is more enjoyable with the fantastic vocal talents of Anthony Head providing his role, which makes it sad that he hasn't returned, as his story has been left open, and I think it would be exhilarating to see him in live action with his really inspiring design and the voice kept intact to give him more constant chill to the Doctor and companions in the newest series. But hey, it's a charming little story and I'm glad that it's been able to get a HD re-release in the steelbooks, which allowed for more people to see something that was simply a passion project to provide more the becoming behemoth of the revival of Doctor Who at the time. I hope this review has made more people appreciate it and enjoy it for what it is. Wait. You thought I was done? Oh, no. This is only half the video, as we still have another animation to look at, and that would be
Dreamland? Oh, I've always wanted to go there.
To everyone involved, the Infinite Quest was seen as much deserved success, so in 2008 it was planned that Doctor Who would return with another animation. However, this time it would be in the style of 3D animation instead of the 2D 3D hybrid of the Infinite Quest. However, now there was a bit of a problem. David Tennant was leaving in 2010. If they wanted to do another animated adventure, they'd have to do it relatively quickly, so it decided that they'd do this to mark 2009 with yet another project in the works. Gary Russell returned to direct, but Alan Barnes was, however, replaced with Phil Ford, the head writer of the Sarah Jane Adventures and the co-writer of the upcoming 2009 special, The Waters of Mars, which Gary script edited. In 2009, a script was in place with a story, some characters, and a lot more ambition to this time. The cast was assembled, which included Jordan Moffat, Tim Howard, David Warner, Stuart Milligan, and Lisa Bowerman. Little Loud Studios was chosen to animate the special as it arrived on the BBC Red service the week after The Waters of Mars, but again a compilation was compiled for viewing as it was available to see on December 5th, 2009. During a visit to a local diner, the 10th Doctor stumbles upon a mysterious alien artifact that leads him onto a mission to rescue Rivesh Mantalax from the threat of the Viper Rocks and the clutches of the American military. I could say of this special that we have a simpler plot to it than Infinite, having one thing lead onto another without a sort of adventure type deal, which works as it means that the path is not set and the adventure can go anywhere, which in this case it does. But the simple plot is fine enough, the story though, I shall explain my thoughts about it in some time. I do like the fact that we have the lighter 10th Doctor in this animated adventure, especially with the broadcast placement and how it was shown after the darker, more rigorous events of the Waters of Mars. So we get a Doctor who you'd want to go on a type of adventure with and not try and rewrite time as he'd later become, but more fix the problems that are here at the moment. The companions are great as well. Not only do we get American companions that aren't usually around as the ones that originate from Britain, but Cassie's a nice female companion who's sort of atypical in some places, but is rather calm and collective in some other spots, depending on the situation in hand. Although out of the two, I like Jimmy more. He's not Cassie's boyfriend, he's just a person who knows her and can sort of accept the new world that the Doctor has given him. I also think he has some of the funnier quips, which allows for different types of humour with his character. The story itself is brilliant, with the story about the Viper Rocks and the war that they're facing with Vantelex's race. I also like how the Viper Rocks can essentially work alongside their supposed enemies, but also can double cross them too for their own reasons, giving them more than a status as a villain, as they could easily change their factions and sides to the humans to try and make them more of the villains. The writing of Phil Ford works well, the fact that he contributed a lot to the overall end product, conjuring up the Nevada and the 1950s theme. He also works well in making it feel more like an episode that would be right and home in between Planet of the Dead and the Waters of Mars, almost like a missing episode between the two to link the two changing characters of the Doctor together, as there are moments of both in this story. The music itself was great, being hand-picked tracks from the series' 3 to 2009 specials, which work well with the story, making for action-packed moments in some places and quieter but tear-jerking in the next. I'm glad they were able to pick the right ones because the ones that they chose really work well with the scenes that they're in. I have to say that I love David Warner's voice to Lord Aslock, as his presence works well, giving a gruff and tougher voice to a broader monster that has factions. He feels right at home with a lot of the conversations that he has, especially with the Doctor from episodes 4 onwards, where they really stand up against each other in these scenes. Sometimes he falters, but he does his performance at a 90% capacity, which is still well done. I don't like the writing of the lines given to the 10th Doctor, and I think it's a problem with some of the writers who aren't regulars to the series. It's the fact that he's a little too jokey, which even in Planet of the Dead he wasn't. I get that they want to do the lighter tone with him, but some of the jokes he says do fall flat, which is the problem with David's performance, but it's more of a problem with the characterization of the Doctor being portrayed here. Oh, and as a side note, I don't think David Tennant should really do an American accent as he does in the beginning. It's fine due to it being a short little moment, but it sticks out like a sore thumb compared to some of the greater performances he does later in the story. I'm not a fan of Colonel Stark. He's portrayed a little bit over the top as an American general, which again has nothing to do with the performance of Stuart Milligan. A one that's went far, as he got to play President Nixon in Series 6, but the writing of his character seems a little one note. Just angry and not angry with a reason, like the Viprox killed somebody he knew and respected, or that Rivesh Mantalax and Saruba Belak accidentally did the same when landing in 1947. I would say that the animation is very PlayStation 2. But I think everybody had a dig at the animation at some point in their review. So I should say I don't mind it, as I've seen worse animation from some feature films. But I can tell in some places the animation of the characters is probably the weakest part of the animation altogether, with the walk cycles looking a little bit off. Overall, I'd have to say I like Dreamland for its different setting. It's a weird and twisty story that contains a couple of things that you won't be prepared for. The story itself is more compact, with a lot more that the extraterrestrial elements don't usually have, the interesting backstories, which I think are great to watch through. It's also a once-in-a-lifetime chance to look at a Doctor Who story that's set in America that also works. However, the Doctor is either a funny positive or a frosty negative if you're looking for a continuation of the character pre The Waters of Mars or post The Waters of Mars. The characterization is a little off, portraying more of the jokey side of the Doctor that we usually get to see of the guest writers of the era, such as Matthew Graham, Stephen Greenhorn, and Gareth Roberts. The companions are a nice element to the story, of Cassie being a sort of nice friend to the Doctor, or Jimmy, who's a cool but humorous third-wheel hero that adds some comedic moments to the mix, a different side of a person who's trying to understand the wonders of the opening universe by a great sound performance by Tim Howard. The villains can be either good in the performance-wise with David Warner, or depending how much you like the typical American Army general, less than stellar with Stu Milligan. It's a mix-up between the both of them. The fact that the one is better kind of makes it apparent when you look at their actions in the story. Still, I can recommend this to anyone who likes the light-hearted adventures of the 10th Doctor, and preferred this time he had no companions to look after, but can have a fun outing with the Doctor. I wouldn't say that's underrated, but I can say it's a delight, and I'm happy to see this story is getting more and more people to watch it with the new releases from the Steelbooks. Now, I think that's it for this video, but it's not for me overall this month. Of course, I have something bigger planned for the last video. It's a video that I've had in my mind ever since we started planning this month last year.